Before memory or myth, Earth was chaos and creation. In this raw world, something stood upright. Not animal, not man, but the beginning of both. The first step echoed through time. Jungles roared, skies rumbled, and from the shadows, a form emerged. Eyes open, hands grasping. Survival wasn't learned, it was lived. And with each breath, nature faced its boldest rebel yet. They lit fire, not just for warmth, but for power. They reached, fought, and learned. Before we continue this journey, don't forget to like and subscribe, and press the bell icon. The real human story begins now. With stone in hand, they challenged beasts and gods. Every scar, every hunt, every night, survived. It shaped them. Not as kings, but as creatures, chasing something bigger than instinct. Storms raged, forests burned, and still they endured. Clans formed, bonds grew, and stories were born beside firelight. From fear came fire, from fire came memory, the first spark of culture. Not all survived. Some vanished, swallowed by time, but those who did, they carried forward fire hunger, and hope, the building blocks of civilization, carved in dirt and blood. They painted caves, not walls, told stories, not lies. They didn't worship gods, they feared the sky, the dark, the unknown. And still, they moved forward, step by step, from plains to mountains. They walked endlessly, chasing food, fleeing death, and unknowingly, building a map of human destiny. Each footprint carried the weight of tomorrow. Hunger taught them tools, loss taught them love, and through countless winters, humanity hardened, not in flesh, but in will. This was not survival. This was evolution, and in the silence of that ancient world, a cry rang out, not of pain, but of purpose. Man was no longer becoming. Man had arrived. With no maps, they wandered, not lost, just searching. Every sunrise brought danger, but also discovery. They were not walking towards safety, they were walking into the future. Mountains weren't barriers, they were teachers. Rivers were lifelines. Everything spoke, and they listened. The earth wasn't theirs yet, but they were learning its language. In silence, they hunted. In storms, they survived. No gods watched them. Only stars blinked coldly from above. Wild reminded them how small they still were. Fire became more than survival. It became ritual. Around it, they remembered the dead, feared the dark, and dared to imagine. Flames weren't just heat. They were hope. They carved bones, scratched stories into rock. Every mark a whisper to time, a message not for gods, but for the unborn. A history before writing. Children learned by firelight. Elders spoke in grunts and signs. No schools, no books, only memory. A fragile thread tying past to present. Breath to breath, tools sharpened. Minds grew. Mistakes were lessons. A broken bone meant death, but a sharpened stone meant dominance. Intelligence wasn't a gift, it was earned in pain. Lions watched. Them wolves followed. Nature didn't care for their dreams, but they dreamed anyway. Of shelter, of warmth, of a place where death didn't wait outside. Bloodlines continued. Faces changed. But the eyes stayed the same, filled with fear, fire, and a silent question. What's beyond this hill? They began naming things not in words, but in memory. That tree, that cave, that scream in the night. Memory was their map. And memory doesn't lie. The world shifted. Ice crept down. Winters grew cruel. But they stayed, wrapped in furs, huddled tight, inventing warmth with nothing but willpower and stone. Mothers carried the future. Fathers guarded fire. Babies were born beside bones. Life didn't wait for comfort. It bloomed in blood and frost. A new kind of power emerged, not in muscle, but in unity. Clans, tribes, shared fire, shared hunger. They realized, alone, we die. Together we conquer. From savanna to snowfields. They walked, step after step, leaving behind no footprints, just echoes. History isn't written in books. It's carved in bones. Their dead weren't discarded. They were buried, with tools, with meaning, with mourning. It wasn't just survival anymore. It was soul. Something sacred had awakened. They didn't build temples. They made graves. Silent places under earth where memories slept. And with each burial, they whispered, "We remembered." Cave walls turned into museums. Hands traced stories of hunts and beasts. This wasn't art. It was memory. A frozen scream across 40,000 years. Hunger pushed them further. Across mountains, over ice bridges, into the unknown. Land after land, they kept walking. The world was too small for their will. Fires burned in Europe, Asia, and Africa. From one bloodline, 1,000 branches grew. They didn't settle. They spread. Because movement was life. In a cave, a child with Down syndrome was cared for, not abandoned. This wasn't weakness, it was love. Compassion existed before civilization. Humanity ran deeper than survival. They built nothing of stone, yet changed the earth. Every migration shaped the planet. Not with cities, but with fire, footsteps, and forgotten bones. Myths didn't come later. They began here. When lightning struck, when stars moved, when death came without reason. Fear birthed gods. Wonder birthed questions. The moon was their calendar. The wind, their warning. Nature was their clock. And still, they beat time by surviving one more day. Wounds became wisdom. Hunger became hunting. They didn't fear extinction, because they didn't know it existed. They just moved forward. Always forward. Not all made it. Entire branches of humanity vanished. The Neanderthals, the Denisovans, gone. But pieces of them live in us. You carry their bones, their instincts, their fire. You are their legacy. Every heartbeat, a drum echoing from the Stone Age. They didn't seek comfort. They earned it. And when it came, it wasn't couches or walls. It was fire, family, and a full belly. In time, they domesticated wolves. Not with chains, but with trust. Companionship was born beside campfires. The first alliance of species. They didn't conquer the world. They survived it. And in surviving, they became more than beasts. They became us. This was no golden age. It was harsh, brutal, and cold. But through it, a mind awakened, one that asked, what comes next? Fire was no longer just warmth. It was control, dominance, a beacon in the unknown. Around it, early humans shared stories, warnings, and dreams. A new kind of communication flickered with every flame. Tools sharpened from stone became extensions of human will. No longer prey, they turned into hunters. Every strike, every cut, shaped the fate of their kind. Progress was no longer optional. It was survival. Skins draped over shoulders, not for fashion, but to shield from the merciless cold. Caves became homes, not shelters. Humanity was crafting comfort, slowly rewriting nature's harsh script. The wild was being tamed. Where there was once isolation, now came unity. Tribes formed, language bloomed in gestures and grunts. Safety grew in numbers, and so did conflict. But with every clash, identity sharpened like a stone blade. The mind began to wonder, not just about food or shelter, but stars above, and meanings beneath. Curiosity became a weapon, as strong as any spear. The soul of humanity awakened. Marks scratched into cave walls were not random, they were memory. The first stories, art, warnings, pride, a way to be remembered long after death. Proof that someone had lived and felt. Children were no longer just born, they were taught. Culture took root. Songs, rhythms, chants echoed across plains. The past wasn't lost, it was passed down. Humanity learned how not to start from zero, but nature still reminded them. They were fragile. Storms destroyed, beasts attacked, plagues spread. Every step forward was a gamble against extinction. The earth wasn't kind. It never had been. But man endured. Cooperation became civilization's heartbeat. Shared water, shared tools, shared pain, even shared belief. The idea of us was born. From kinship to culture, humanity no longer crawled, it marched. Together they tamed animals, grew crops, shaped land. No longer wanderers, they rooted in place. Villages rose. Structure came from chaos. Survival turned to legacy. The earth bent, slightly, to their will. Bones became blueprints. The old ways weren't forgotten, they were built upon. Spears turned to plows, fire to furnace, caves to huts. Humanity wasn't just surviving anymore, it was sculpting the future. As the sun rose over early settlements, so did questions. Who are we? Why are we here? The mind demanded more than meat and safety. Spirituality and wonder began to dance, and every generation added a chapter. Footsteps pressed deeper into earth. They didn't just adapt, they innovated. And in those first sparks of brilliance, the blueprint of everything we are now was already glowing. From trees to tribes, from stone to symbols. This is how it began. Every step, every sacrifice, every flame lit in the dark led to us. The story of humanity wasn't luck, it was will. If you felt the echo of these ancient voices, remember, their blood runs in you. Their courage, their questions, their fire. We are their legacy, and their story isn't over. The first spark in darkness, your support lights the path forward. Subscribe to honor their journey, like to keep the flame alive. Share to carry their story into tomorrow. This is just the beginning.